Hi all, welcome to a webinar about Anodot, a new CSV S3 collector. In the webinar, we are going to see a presentation of this new business collector that is inside the UI itself. The presenter will be Ilan, our product manager. And what we are going to show you is how to activate the S3 and CSV collector. And the idea is that you can now generate metrics in a CSV format, upload it to your S3 bucket, and configure Anodot to read that bucket every interval, take the CSV and transform it to metrics that can ease the integration with Anodot, that can ease the need to implement our Anodot API and make it more simple for you as a user to create new metrics and add new metrics in no time. So Ilan, I will give you the stage.
Okay, thank you. So without further ado, let's just start. Just a quick overview of what we call data collectors are. It is a module within Anodot that contains 4 basic steps. The first step being the one which we call creating a source, which means actually linking to some source around the world. Could be network, could be inside the customer network, could be on the cloud-based, could be on a local drive. And we are constantly adding more and more capabilities of connecting to such sources. The next step for such a source is to actually define what kind of data we want to query out of it. This is what we call the data stream. I'm just showing an example here. We have multiple streams for this source. Assume everybody can see the screen in this recording. And as you can also see, that those streams have a certain state. They could be an incomplete because this is a demo account and I'm just doing all kinds of stuff. This one is in completed mode, meaning this specific file was already uploaded, so the metrics are already within Anodot. Okay. Step number 3 is actually to work on the actual data that was gathered in what we call the stream table and define the metrics, the timestamp, the columns that are going to be streamed to Anodot. And the 4th step is actually to stream it to Anodot to create what we call metrics. And from that moment on, Anodot anomaly detection will start working on those metrics. Every stream has its own scheduling depending on type and capabilities. On my screen here, you can see that we have 3 examples of different sources, and we'll soon drill down to the top one, which is the S3 capability that we've added recently. You can see here the capability to upload specific files from your own drive or wherever local device that you have, and connectivity to Google Analytics, which we already have for quite a while, and I won't go into that right now. So this is it in terms of data collectors. Naturally, all of this appears also in our documentation. Okay, S3, if you're listening to this webinar, you probably know what S3 is, but the capability of storing whatever information on your Amazon buckets is something that can prove to be a very helpful process in sending data to Anodot or allowing Anodot to actually collect the data. And I will show you how we do it. If I click on the plus here on sources, I'm actually creating a new source. A new source meaning I'm trying to connect to various types. Here I'm connecting to S3. And what I need to know about my bucket and what I need to define in my bucket is the actual region that it is located in. In my sample bucket, I have located it in Ohio. So I'm just choosing that from the list of regions. I've created a dummy bucket, which I called, okay, just a name. So as you probably know, bucket names are unique worldwide. So I just gave it a long name that probably nobody else had while it was created. One small thing that you need to do beforehand, if you have those permissions, then you can do it yourself. Otherwise, you need to get assistance from someone who owns the bucket. And this is what we have here, this notification regarding those guidelines, because the fact that Anodot wants to access the bucket doesn't really mean that someone allowed us to do it. So in order to allow us to do it, in general, what you need to do is go to your the bucket itself on S3. When you go into the bucket, you go to the permissions, you go to the bucket policy, and in that bucket policy, we have provided a sample of what we need. And what we actually need is to add Anodot, the principal, and I will show it in the code sample that we have here, not code, configuration sample that we have here. As you can see, we're asking you to add us as the principal, meaning this is someone that you allow access to, and here is where you define with your own bucket the permissions that we have. As you can see, get and list here. You may not want to give us the entire list. You may want to give us some path inside. That's fine, as long as we can get to those files. So this is something you need to do beforehand. And if we go back here, then I already did it in my bucket. So therefore, when I do continue, hopefully I will be able to access this bucket. Okay? The fact that I got to step number 2, which we call the stream query, means that I was able to connect to the bucket, and actually not more than that. Maybe I won't have access to anything, but maybe I will. So I will just give it a try right now. And as you can see, most of the fields are disabled. We are working our way from left to right with one difference. Here I can give a meaningful name for the stream. This name can be later on used to search for metrics that were created from that stream. So if I give it a name, and today is the 21st, okay. So I've just given it a name, and here I can define where are the files located. We will go just a second to the bucket itself, so you will see the way it is structured. We talked earlier about the permissions. I told you I did that. And if we go to the overview, then here is where I put the files. I have some input files here, just samples that I took from various public websites here. So we have samples with a certain naming convention. This is something specific right now to our S3 collector. So you need to name it in starting with year, day, month, day, and then hours. And we have 2 options. The files could contain hourly data or daily data. Either way, those 2 digits for the hour need to be there. If it's hourly, they represent something. If it's daily, you can put whatever. We're just looking for that format. So here we just want to say that we're looking for files in input files, meaning Anodot will look for the files here. And here is where I will put the suffix of the file. As I said, the prefix we already know because it's going to be a timestamp. And let's assume that we want this sample file. Then what I need to put in the field in Anodot is _sample.csv. Okay, so it will be sample.csv. Okay, now when I do go, you can see that the main area, which is the central one where we handle the dimensions and metrics, was populated, and the scheduler was populated as well, and they are enabled. Okay, so if we want to see what took place here, then first of all we can do a preview. This icon shows preview. Okay, I can look at the file. This is something related to temperatures somewhere around the world, and I just added some dummy columns just so we'll have various kinds. As you can see, text, numbers that represent days, numbers that represent the mean temperature, and numbers that represent year, all the years. Not all of them are needed, and naturally we have dates, all kinds of dates, and okay. So if we look here, we see that Anadu decided that the date column is best chosen as date 3. Not necessarily correct. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, according to the heuristics that we had in the file. And metrics could be all those, meaning those are the measures, the actual KPIs that we are trying to measure anomalies on. And on the right here, you can see the dimension columns. Now, if I want to edit it, because I don't want all these metrics and I don't want all these dimensions, and I want to, in a way, arrange it better way for me. So as you can see, date was on the left, and we can see it here, and we had metrics and dimensions, and I don't want this date. If I just click X, it goes to this repository on the left, which you can do search on. Right now there's nothing really to search because there aren't that many columns here. And I want to take the date 4 as the date. And if we want to look at the file to make sure that we take the right format, because the format that we have here was chosen for date 3, so let's just verify that column date 4 is actually day/month/year. Okay, so this is wrong. So we will do day, month, and as you can see, the system searches for it, and it was year with 4 digits, and I assumed that we have something similar. Yeah, we do. So this is it. Time zone, we don't really need to bother with it. The default is UTC, and this one is okay for me. If I wanted to check something else, then I can do that. Now, in terms of dimensions, we have date. A date usually is not really a dimension, but the way Anadot translated it is because this contained text, then actually it decided that it wants to put it as a dimension. And if the metrics that I care about are the ones, let's put the month here as well. Not usually the case, but just to show you the file. And as you can see, I'm clicking the X's to put stuff to the repository. I can drag stuff back to whatever location, and that's the way this screen works. Once I'm done, I'm just clicking the X, which applies those changes. As you can see, the distribution of columns here is different now. Columns that are not used are not shown here. Just to verify, you can see we have 3 dimensions, we have 3 metric columns, and the date is date 4. And as you can see, this is what we have right now. Okay, then I don't want the original. So this is it, 1, 2, and 3. And moving on to the scheduling. So here we have some items that we need to tell the system how to recognize them. One of them, as I said earlier, do the file contain daily or hourly information? And as I said, we will look into 5-minute information and 1-minute information and so on. Right now, this is the case, meaning a single file. If we chose daily, we will look for a single file that will contain the day's information. Now, we don't want the system to take stuff from the beginning of time. There's no point in that. So you can define how long back do you want the system to look. Okay, so this is the scheduling. Once I'm done here, I will click next, and I'm moving on to the third step, which is what we call the stream table. So what do we see on this screen? This is the stream table. We see the dates that were taken from the date 4 column, if you recall. You can see here also the breadcrumbs. We started the source in the data manager. We created a query of the stream. Now we're looking at the stream table. Once we're done here and we're okay with whatever we have, we can do the streaming, and this will get to actual anomaly detection. And I can click the streaming, and it asks me, do you want to actually stream this information? And naturally, I will say yes here. And as you can see, Anodot informs me that the file is processing. We have the progress bar, and we show that the state is in progress. And this will continue. What happens here is actually we are loading right now the entire file. We are segmenting it according to the timestamps that we have there. We are verifying that we can parse the entire files and work with it and convert the file information into metrics. And all those metrics are actually going through what we call the standard, which is far from standard, processing by Anodot for creating the baselines, finding the anomalies, finding the correlations, highlighting those anomalies, and so on and so forth. And naturally, on those, you can create your alerts and so on.
This is great. So thank you very much for the demo.
You're welcome.
I hope for all my customers or our customers that you will find it useful. And if you want to enable it for the next 3 weeks, let your customer success manager know, and we will do it as soon as possible. Thank you very much.